After encapsulation and inheritance, polymorphism is often referred to as the third pillar of object-oriented programming. Polymorphism is a Greek word that means many-shaped, and it has two distinct aspects. First of all, base classes might define and implement virtual methods, and derived classes can override them, which means that they provide their own implementation. And also, at runtime, objects of a derived class might be treated as objects of the base class in places such as methods parameters or collections or arrays. When this polymorphism occurs, the object's declared type is no longer identical to its runtime type. Polymorphisms enable us to work with groups of related objects in a uniform way. For example, suppose that we have a drawing application that enables a user to create various kinds of shapes on a drawing surface. We do not know at the compile time which specific types of shapes the user will create. However, the application has to keep track of all of the various types of shapes that are created, and also it has to update them in response to users' mouse actions. We can use polymorphism to solve this problem in two basic steps. First, we'll have to create a class hierarchy in which each specific shape derives from a common base class. And also we have to use the virtual method, which will invoke the appropriate method on any derived class through a single call from the base class method. First, let's create a class called shape and derived classes such as rectangle, circle, and triangle. And the shape class will have a virtual method called draw, and it will be overridden in the derived classes. So let's add a base shape class to our project. And this class will have two public properties. Let's call them x and y as an int. So public int x and public int y. And a public virtual void draw method with some base implementation. So let's just console right line drawing shape. We marked our draw method with the virtual keyword so that it can be overridden in the derived classes. As you remember, we could also override the abstract methods, but abstract methods could be declared only in an abstract class, and they couldn't have any implementation, whereas virtual methods can have the base implementation. For this example, I'll add the circle, triangle, and rectangle class in the same file. So let's start with the circle class. So class circle inherits from shape. And let's override the public void draw method with some console right line drawing circle. And of course, the circle class could have some additional properties like radius, but let's just focus on the draw method. Moving on, I will add the rectangle class. So class rectangle inherits from shape. And here also we'll have to override the draw method. So public override draw. Let's console right line drawing rectangle. And lastly, let's create the triangle class, which will also inherit from the shape. And here we'll override the draw method as well. So public override void draw, console right line drawing triangle. Now every shape has its own implementation for the draw method. Let's go to our main method. And I will just remove the existing code. And let's create an array of shapes like this. So shape array, let's call it shapes, is equal to and we'll assign some shapes. So a new circle, a new rectangle, and also a new triangle. And now with a for each loop, let's invoke the draw method and see what happens. So for each shape, let's call it shape, in shapes. On this shape object, we'll just invoke the draw method. When I run the program, there's the output. Even though our shape variable in the for each loop is a shape type, the overridden draw method is called from the concrete classes. And this is a polymorphic behavior which we achieved with the virtual base class member. However, if we didn't override the draw method, for example in the circle class, the program will behave a bit differently. So I will just remove the override keyword so that you can see that in action. Let's run the program again. And this time the first element is still a circle, but the draw method is called from the base class.